Well, hello there. I am Taylor, and you are listening to the Surviving Maine Podcast. You are probably watching it on YouTube, but you could be listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. So hi. Today, I am talking to the player voted out in episode 10 of Surviving Maine Season 3. It was a bit of a blindside. I thought this was a really fun episode, and so hopefully you've watched it, because I'm about to say the name of the player, and that is our self-proclaimed villain of the season, Mike. Here is my interview with Mike. Okay, hi Mike, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Great. I am happy to be talking to you, but sad that it's so early. It's not that early. You made a good run.
Yeah, I feel like I did pretty well. I did as well as I think I needed to for my own psyche, I guess. I don't know. I did very well. I'm happy.
What now? Had you played LRGs before? I know you've done the online.
Yeah, I've only played one. So I played in Survivor Buffalo Season 2. I got idled out at 8. So to make it as far as I did here, at least I kind of one-upped myself. So that's positive.
Constant progress.
Yeah, exactly. Next one, nice. I'm a winner.
That's right. Or 7.
Or whatever.
Okay, so let's talk about, we can do this however you want to do it. This whole interview thing started because Becky from season 2 wanted to write everything that happened down, like a diary, but she didn't want to write it down. So she was like, just record me talking. And I was like, okay, I'll record you talking and I'll interview you about it. And then I got the idea to do a podcast. So everybody else from the season, I extended the offer, and a bunch of people wanted to do it. And then this time, Andy, when I was interviewing you guys before, right before the game started, one of the first things he said to me was, do I get to do a podcast after this? So I thought we should continue. So thanks for wanting to be a part of this.
Yeah, for sure.
So if you want to just walk through any thoughts you had on the game as a whole, if you want to walk through every move you made, whatever you want to do, this is for you and the super fans who listen to it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't even know, do I have super fans? That'd be cool.
Everyone does. Yeah.
I mean, what's kind of cool about our season is that the experience started years ago, because the pandemic kind of paused the game, and so I was cast in the original cast. Right. And so I had been waiting for 2 years to play Surviving Maine. So, the whole experience just became almost extra surreal, because it's like you're coming out of the pandemic, you're coming out of this kind of ridiculous experience that we've all shared, and then coming to meet new people, nobody you've ever interacted with before, in an experience that you'll never get again. So it's such a cool it's such a cool cast to be part of because of that specific experience. So that's really fun. So my anxiety level was through the roof.
For what, 2 years?
Yeah, I mean, literally, and it's funny because Liza, her way of communicating things was so sporadic that you would wait for the next email and you'd be just sitting there, just kind of chomping at the bit, ready to play. So it was exciting to get that email that was finally yep, it's a go. We're going to do this. So yeah, I mean, 2 years of anxiety finally building up, and, to walk onto the lot that first day and to see kind of some of the people that have already gotten there, to see them kind of sitting in the grass. I'm, my wheels are already turning, who do I want to work with? Who seems cool? So yeah, just right from the start, the game starts. So that's the fun part of my brain, is that I never stopped playing the game. So that was kind of my perspective, the first moment stepping on.
And not everyone was new to you. You knew a couple of people.
Yeah. Let's talk about that right from the start, right? Yeah, I mean, like it was kind of weird because, and again, this was only because of the pandemic. I didn't know
Mhm.
any of these people. Had we played initially, right? I would have never known any of them. And because of the pandemic, I became a little bit more part of the org world, and kind of like started to join like random games and meet new people. And Justin, one of the players, ran an org for about the year and a half, I think,
Oh,
through the pandemic, and did a whole Winners at War season, and everything. And I was part of it because I won one of his games. And so I got to play two of his games. And so, Justin and I, about a year before the game came about, so last summer, um, we were kind of in a conversation, just kind of like talking about LRGs and like, would you be playing anything this summer? And he was talking about um, Survival Challenge because he had played it before the pandemic. And
yeah.
then I just brought up, I was like, yeah, I was supposed to play one LRG and it got canceled because of the pandemic. And he asked me like which one, and I was like, it doesn't matter. So I told him Surviving Maine, and like everything just kind of blew up from there. So he and I both told each other that we were supposed to play. And so when I got the email, I knew full well what he was thinking because I was thinking the same thing. And then Jess. So Jess and I actually played in that game that Justin
The
had
winners
had
at war, right?
Winners at War,
Yeah.
and our my original season that I won, she was part of, and she was
What?
actually in my alliance. And so I'm actually really good friends with her cousin now because we were the final two in that.
Oh my
Um, and
gosh.
so I find out that Jess is playing because this past Easter, I was in Boston visiting some of them, and I was at lunch with her and a friend of ours, and I just happened to bring up, I was like, yeah, I'm super nervous about playing with Justin in this live game that I'm playing. And she just turns to me, she goes, yep, I'm playing it too. And I was like, ah. So like again, wheels start turning. I'm like, oh my God, this is gonna be a disaster. And then Will, I don't know Will personally, but Will was part of that group of people as well. But Will and I actually officially met at Surviving Maine. So I knew of him and he had known of me, but we
Mhm.
never really like talked much together. So Jess and Justin were the ones I knew the most.
So you didn't even try to do a sort of pregame alliance with them?
No. Well, so Justin, I knowing Justin as a host, like Justin's always been very vocal about how he hates relationships going into games. So
Nice.
we were awesome about it. Like we hung out that Easter, like we never brought it up. We both knew we were probably playing, but neither one of us brought it up. And actually he messaged me the morning of, or he posted, I'm sorry, excuse me, he posted something on Facebook the morning of, like that made it seem like he wasn't in Maine, but like I was like, man, he's being tricky. But yeah, so no, we never talked about it. Jess and I briefly talked about it when she told me she was playing, but nothing like, no. No pregame alliances, no, because we didn't know what tribe we were going to be on,
Yeah,
or how things were going to shake out. So we kind of just let it sit and see what happened as it came up.
I love that. But
Which I
then,
think I think shows like how we respect the game, right? So
yes.
like the idea of like sitting there and saying like I'm not going to pregame and I'm not going to like use what I have previous in this situation to benefit me in this game. Did it benefit me in the game? Maybe, maybe not. But I didn't make it happen, and neither did they. So I'm
Hmm.
happy about that.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about what happens when you see everybody and you realize who's on your tribe and who's not, and what was going on in your head with all that.
Yeah, I mean, like again, knowing Jess, I immediately so when we walk up, it's actually Jess, myself, Andy, and Dan that all walk up together. And this is the worst. Like my heart's already pounding because Jess is standing right next to me. I don't know how to play this. Like, do we play like we know each other? Do we play like we don't? I don't know what she's thinking. Again, because we hadn't talked about any of this. So I'm just kind of playing it off, like, and we tell each other where we're from. And Dan immediately asks me, "Oh, why aren't you playing in Surviving Buffalo? Like that's happening this weekend too." And I've already played, and like I don't want him to know that, and maybe he
Mhm.
already knows that. And I'm just like, so everything is just like hitting me at once. Andy's winking at me. I don't know why at this point. Like he just keeps like looking over at me and the group of four of us. and I'm trying to like get Jess's attention, and it was just a total nightmare. But yeah, I mean, like the four of us ended up kind of making a thing when we were at the mat. So that ended up helping me kind of make a decision about whether I was going to work with Jess or not, because Andy kind of brought it up like, hey, the four of us are standing here. We should probably help each other out. So that helped me, and that benefited me in the sense that now I don't have to play it off in any way with Jess. We're kind of in something, and we can kind of talk about it later. And then Will walked up, and I knew Will knew Jess, and I knew of Will, so it was just a whole mess like with the four of us. But Justin ends up on the other tribe, so that kind of relieved me a little bit because I don't have any sort of like desire or need to work with Will. That obviously changes as the game moves on, but like I don't have to work with him, and Jess was kind of like the one that I had to juggle for a minute. Which we'll get to that later. She was really juggling me, but yeah, I mean, like, so from my perspective, like Jess was the one I had to make sure that I was solid with, and then move on from there.
Okay. So where do you want to go from here? Do you want to talk about? Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think so right off the bat, like you walk up and the field is already set up with challenges, and like it's such a cool experience because, as a Survivor fan, I wanted the experience, and I feel like, right from the bat, like you look around, you're seeing the flags, you're seeing the mats, you're seeing the challenge, the first challenge all set up, and you're just getting this sense of like excitement and like I was struggling because I'm very strategic. I'm a very strategic player, and I like to kind of talk to people. And it was really hard because both tribes were right there, and everyone's just kind of milling about. And there's really nothing strategic that you can do in those first couple of hours because you're really just playing reward challenges, and that's great because it's building up camaraderie, and it's bonding us as a group in a way that normal Survivor probably wouldn't have, because you're doing reward immunity, whereas we did a bunch of rewards at the beginning. So it just built up this camaraderie in our team, which obviously made things even harder when the voting started to happen. But yeah, the reward challenges were super fun. I'm trying to remember like specific ones. I know of some immunity challenges that I definitely want to talk about, but the reward challenges were super fun. It just got us like ready to go. And so that was super fun. It was super hot. I had put on sunscreen. I think I got there at like 11, and I had put sunscreen on at the hotel right before I got there, which was around 10:30 maybe. And so by the time we start challenges, I don't even know, because you guys took all our time stuff away. It was probably like, I would say like 1:00, like peak hot time.
Yeah.
And we start doing these challenges, and you forget about the fact that it's really, really hot out. And you're just focused on winning, and you're focused on doing these challenges and building team camaraderie and all that. And then all of a sudden you just look at everybody, and everyone's turning into lobsters. And like, great, we're in Maine and that's all about lobsters and all, but like you don't want to look like one. Yeah. But we're all like bright red. We're all turning just like fire on our faces, which is unfortunate because that's kind of how the first person goes in the game. That heat exhaustion and just like, pushing yourself so hard in that first day and not realizing like how much the sun is really like affecting you. So it was a fun day, but it was definitely like once the day ended, it was kind of like, oh, thank God. Like it was just such an exhausting first day.
Right.
But yeah.
One of those challenges, and this comes to mind because the last bit of footage I was watching the other day as I was logging things was the other tribe, the Miko tribe, talking about the people from your tribe that they could like figure out, and they were calling you Mouthy Mike because you had yelled at them during one of the last challenges. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So one of the reward challenges, I kind of got some insight about it, like after the fact, like once tribe swaps happened, I kind of learned all of this. Yeah. So during one of the challenges, one of our team members had to walk across planks that we were holding. And at one point, maybe it was on purpose, maybe it wasn't, I don't know. I perceived it as on purpose. They were angling themselves toward us so that we had to go like a different angle. And so it was tough because if we went either way, we were going to have to like make a wide like a wider turn than them to get to where we needed to go. And so obviously the challenge is built that way, that at some point we got to cross paths. And I thought they were doing it on purpose. So I immediately just goes, stay where you are. Don't move. Don't move. And like, they're just getting like, she's literally like, I'm going to step on your platforms. And we just started getting like really mouthy with each other. And I think it was Caitlin up on the platforms.
It was,
and like, it was just hilarious in my head. But like, apparently that turned me into Mouthy Mike, which is funny because I'm not usually that aggressive. I got really aggressive in this game, and I may have to apologize at some point. But like, like you just get so invested in like your team and the game, and you want to beat the other team. Like, you don't want the other team to win. And so, you know, when you see things that they're doing that might be a little bit, you know, sketchy or like or not helping your team out, you want to be vocal about it because you want to let your whole team know. Like, you want to, you know, let them know like, hey guys, we got to do this so that like they don't get the upper edge. And so if that turned me into Mouthy Mike because I'm trying to help my team, then it is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that competitive spirit, it turned you into Mouthy Mike, and that's fine. They called you that for the rest of the weekend, but
they did. Well, and that wasn't the only time, unfortunately. But
yeah,
I think there was another.
Handball challenge.
Oh my God, that was awful. So during the handball, that was immunity, I think. I can't remember.
Yeah.
And I think we were down in numbers, or no, because they had lost. I don't remember exactly, but there was a lot of aggression going on. It's just it's a very physical challenge. And you know, I ended up like teamed up at some point with Mary Beth a lot, and I just was trying to like not be aggressive because like you're playing this game and you're playing this aggressive game, but you also don't want to be like mean or rude or anything like that. And then all of a sudden I just started noticing that the other team was just being a little bit more sly about how they were like utilizing the field of the game.
Yeah.
And so like when they would push one of our members into a don't be in that zone, it was like, you can't be in that zone. You have to move. And it's like, but they just pushed me in.
Right.
So it was a whole big, like, weird thing going on. And so I aggressively just started like, push them back. But like that's like, if you're going to push us, like, okay, like if that's how we're going to play. So Mouthy Mike definitely like showed his face early in the game. I would say he petered off a little bit toward mid game, but definitely in the beginning, he was stone face.
Yeah, so that challenge, that was, you guys were even. I think you had just voted out Sam.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that, voting out Sam?
The Sam vote out, it was so tough because, you know, you're looking for any reason to kind of get a majority of people to vote for somebody. And so, you know, Sam, as great as she was, and you know, I really liked her. It was like she talked a lot about like being part of production the year before. And so there was just a lot that she explained and talked about that kind of just got a lot of people's gears moving. And so for me, I used that as much as I could, even though I really liked her. Like Trish was somebody that I had bonded really well with. And I forget who else was up on the block for that. Dan, because of Will, that whole debacle. So, which I didn't help with, but we'll talk about that. And so like, for me, it was actually, for me, confirmed, surprisingly, with, Delaney and Jess, because when they came to me, they walked right up to me and they're like, it's Sam. And I didn't bat an eye because I was like, okay, yeah, it's Sam. But the two of them had talked. And like, I never once connected the fact that the two of them were really working together, but I knew that they had talked at the very beginning about voting for Sam, and then came to me and said, we're voting for Sam. And I was like, great. So that was something that I thought about after the game. It's like, oh, I've actually noticed the two of them working together and never really put two and two together. Yeah, so then Will starts like off this whole, like, cause I eventually could have easily pulled off of Sam. Like if something had moved or gone in a specific way, I might have been fine with just like, okay, cool, let's protect Sam, not knowing that Will and Sam knew each other. So Will was obviously trying to protect Sam.
That's right. Okay. Yeah.
So and I didn't know that, but they had sort of made a comment during one of our camp times about going to the reunion for DWSC, or I don't know
Mm.
exactly what it's called. So, um, like Durham Warriors and Survival Challenge. So the fact that the two of them had already talked about the fact that they were like aware of each other's like presence. I don't know. It was obvious that Will was trying to protect Sam. And then he threw out Dan's name,
Mhm.
which wasn't going to work for me because I really wanted the Jess, Andy, Dan thing to happen. And so by voting off Dan, it didn't work in my plans of how I wanted the game to go. So as much as I wanted to help Will and work with Will, protecting Sam was not gonna help my game.
Mhm. I see.
So unfortunately he picked Dan, and I just couldn't do that. And Trish was great too. I really liked Trish, and I didn't see myself voting for the people that Will wanted to vote for, so I couldn't do
Mhm.
it.
I from what I remember, and I haven't got to this part of the footage yet, but I believe Trisha was never an actual option. That
Not really.
that round, it was Dan had thrown that name out to try to get Will to say it so that Dan could then use that against Will to get people to vote out Will. It was like a sneaky thing, Dan, from what I remember of filming.
Maybe like so from my perspective, Will came to me and was like, Dan's throwing out Trisha's name. And I was like,
Right.
okay. And
Yeah.
Will's like, we got to get Dan out. And I was
Right.
like, uh, no.
It was like they were
So
both using it against each other.
and that's exactly what happened. And then like we were trying to make it seem like, oh, it was just a misunderstanding between the two of them. Meanwhile, like, Trish
No.
is just standing there like, can we not use my name? Like, so yeah, it was just a total mess. Like whoever dropped the name, if it was Dan, if it was Will, I don't really care, but it was just a mess. And so right, I don't think Trish was ever actually an option.
Right.
It was just really just making sure that Sam was the vote, and I think like people overthought that round, and it just got really messy.
Yeah. Did you ever consider, did you already say this? Did you ever consider voting for Will that round?
Um, yes, but like it was like flighty. Like I
Yeah.
didn't I knew how Will plays, and so I was a little scared that he was already like part of something messy, and so I really got nervous that if I work with Will, I have to accept the messy. And so yes, for a brief second I was kind of like, all right, do we go after Will here because he's just creating mess, and
Hmm.
like Will is like just as much of an option as Sam if we're trying to break up that relationship.
Right.
But then Will also like for me was just a bigger asset, and this isn't to say Sam wasn't, but like what Will had offered and put out there in challenges was already like leaps and bounds above
Mm.
everyone, I felt. And so like
Yeah.
Will was stepping up as a leader, and I was good with that. Like shield me as much as possible, Will. I'm good. Sam would just wasn't a shield for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Okay. So that I think that's going to be a good episode. I think it's going to be a little bit exciting. Uh
Yeah, thanks Will and Dan.
yeah. um okay, so then the next thing that happens that you're really involved with then is the tribe swap. Do you want to talk about that?
So my game coming into this was to try to find people that I could hide behind, and that those people were Will, Andy, Jess, and Delaney. Like I knew that if
Mm.
I could hide behind those people, that I could potentially like pull strings in the background. Well, the tribe swap happens, and guess who picks number one? This guy. So now I have to stand there and make decisions on
Right.
who's going to be in what tribe. And it wasn't so much as like schoolyard pick, like I pick somebody then they pick somebody. I literally picked the whole tribe. I think this is like the downfall of my game,
Oh,
and I think back on it because Stephanie made a big play later on with me, and like brought up the fact that like why did you pick the people that you picked, like how did you make those decisions, because she had been left out of the decision. She ended up on
mhm.
exile, so she was very clear about wanting to know what the decisions were, why they were made, like why I picked who I picked. And the dilemma for me was like, oh my God, everyone's going to be thinking that. Like, why did I pick the people that I picked? The best part was is I picked the people that were in my alliance. So I picked Andy right off the bat because he's a super strong guy. Like I knew he would be really helpful and continue to hopefully be a shield for me. I picked Jess because I felt like as females went, she was one of the stronger physical players. And then Dan was kind of just like left as an option for me.
Mm-hmm.
So it was either pick Dan or pick somebody from the other tribe.
Right.
So for me, it was like I have to pick Dan. So, and not saying that I wasn't going to, but that's how I played it off. That like I picked Dan because he's the only one left on my tribe.
Yeah.
You know,
It would be
Will
stupid
picked
not to at that
Trish,
point. Yeah.
right? So like, why wouldn't I pick Dan? He gives me the numbers. So that was kind of my play, and I think that put Dan kind of in a position where people thought he was a swing vote, but he really wasn't. I think he was more with us than, at least, you know, going into the merge and all that. I think he was more with us than anybody ever thought he was. Um, and so then I had to pick the people from the other tribe because that's all that was left, because Will was the other person. So we're just going back and forth with our own tribe. I luckily had picked number one, so I got the majority. I got 4.
Mm-hmm.
And then I picked John because he was a huge puzzle guy.
Yeah.
And like, I was like, I need him. Like, I need him to, like, you know, make sure that I don't screw up any puzzles, because I'm going to be the puzzle guy if I don't have somebody. So I wanted John right off the bat. And I really wanted Caitlin, because Caitlin, like, just from watching her, she was super fast. Like in the handball challenge, I remember having this conversation with her. Like, I would look and she'd be in one corner, and then I would like go to guard the ball, and then I'd look back and she's all the way on the other side of the field. And I was like, you were so fast. Like, you were such a fast runner. You know, I never knew where you were. So I'm glad I got her on my tribe. Unfortunately, it didn't really work out for her. Just in the way it all kind of panned out. But, you know, having Caitlin, I knew was going to be a positive. It had nothing to do with like wanting either of them out of the game.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I really want these two because I think they're two of the stronger players on the other tribe.
That makes sense. Okay. And then
So that tri swap.
yeah. I mean, it was unfortunate that it's, you know, you and Will were the ones choosing. But you got the better end of the deal on that one because you got the majority.
Yep.
So what happened? Okay, so then you guys lose the next 2 in a row. Yeah. Oh no. So it didn't help to have John and Caitlin, did it?
No, it did not.
They were logical choices. He was
right.
by far the strongest in puzzles. She's a rugby coach. Yeah, she can run fast. She's very athletic. They were good choices in theory, on paper.
Yeah. No, I agree. The one challenge we lost was, I don't even remember. It's such a blur now. Yeah. Wasn't it the axe challenge?
Yeah, you had to go on those balance beams, collect the sandbags, do you had to like crawl under the net.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That looked really fun, actually.
That was a super fun challenge.
Sandbags, right?
Yeah. That was a super fun challenge. We did not do great in it. Unfortunately, there was another challenge where we had to like unravel ourselves over the sawhorses, and then there was the axe throwing, and then there was a puzzle, and we barely got to the puzzle.
That was the next day. Yeah.
Oh, it was? Okay.
Yeah,
because I think we lost John that day, or no, we voted off Caitlin and then John that night.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that must have been a reward challenge then, because
that was the toothbrush reward.
Oh yeah. So
that's what the schedule says. It could be wrong.
Yeah, I didn't like the fact that I sucked at getting across the sawhorses. Like, Dan and I struggled with that. But yeah, I mean, like the challenges were close. Like, if I remember correctly, like they were like neck and neck most of the time, and I think across the board they were neck and neck. I think the only one we really sucked at. Sorry, my language. The only one we were really bad at was the sawhorse one, and that was literally because Dan and I just kept getting ourselves knotted, and so I definitely take responsibility for that one. And then so the votes for Caitlin and John were not super straightforward either, which was frustrating. So like, Caitlin's vote was supposed to be John, but he played an idol, and then the John vote was John, but Stephanie was so nervous about like how things were going, so she played an idol, I think. No, yes, yeah, she played an idol that round.
She did. She found it when she was voting.
Yeah. So because she was lying about it.
Yeah.
She told me she had one, and she lied about it. And then there was was that the round that an extra vote was cast too or something?
Yes, Andy played his extra vote for her,
Mm-hmm.
and so her idol canceled that out, and John went with
Mm-hmm.
less votes.
Yeah, that was a mess. So
It
John
was.
John went. Both those tribals were messes. Like nothing really happened the way I thought it was gonna, except Stephanie. And that was the best part of that John vote, is that Stephanie voted with me, and
Hmm.
like I put in the time. Well, she did too. Like we put in the time with each other, and going into that night and voting John out, and her flipping her vote on John, like for me was like a huge eye opener in the game. Like I want to work with Stephanie. I want to figure out a way to get Stephanie to the merge and to figure things out. And we really thought, because at that point it was final 10, we thought it was going to be a merge.
Right.
So, because Trish had already been voted off of the other tribe, and then. No, sorry, I take that back. Trish hadn't been voted off because it was
No.
Caitlyn and John, and then
Uh-huh.
we finally won a challenge the next day.
Yeah.
That's what it was. So we won. This is where I get emotional.
Aw.
I we had lost. I knew Stephanie needed to stay in the game. I really wanted to keep the five of us strong. So Andy, myself, Dan, Jess, and Stephanie, and try to go into the merge five strong, and then we win. We win the morning challenge, and the morning immunity challenge was
The
running out to
balls.
get a bunch of
Yeah.
balls. Yep. We had to come back and we had to put them up on the platform to go through the wire netting to catch it at the end. And then we had to get all five balls up on a platform.
That was a pretty
And
cool challenge, I gotta say.
it
The
was
way they built
awesome.
that, yeah.
What an awesome challenge.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, as we're walking in, we're seeing two sets and we're like, oh no, there's no merge.
Yeah.
And like we're looking at our tribe. I mean, it's Dan, me, Stephanie, Andy, and Jess, and we're all just like, how are we going to do this? There's no way. There's no way we're going to be able to win this challenge. Like we're looking over at Will and Justin and just all these athletic people, and we're just like, there's no way. There's no way we're going to win this.
Hmm.
Um, and we do. We win the game. We win the challenge. There was just like a rhythm that we got, and then Jess and I got all the balls up on the platform in the end. And like for me, that was the moment that, like, for me, the turning point in the game. I felt like I had protected Stephanie. I felt like we're going in five strong against their other five. We felt super good about kind of where we were in the game. And we'd finally won a challenge as a group. And so we were on cloud nine. We were super happy. We were ready to just kind of see what the other tribe did, and then hopefully merge 5-5, and use Stephanie to kind of gain some sort of advantage in the game. And then we come back and Trish is gone,
Hmm.
and Delaney's just looking at me like she's
Yeah.
like almost white in her face.
Yeah.
Now I know now she was acting, but
No, she was not.
oh really? Because
No, she had no idea. No.
oh, that's okay, that's
Yeah.
fun. So like for me, like I didn't know about the Jess Delaney thing. I thought Delaney and I were like solid, like that we were the two. So like she's like giving me looks, like she's looking really nervous, and I'm like, oh my God, like I don't know what's gonna happen. Like we need to like protect them. And we find out that there's another challenge and we have to compete again. And that was, for me, it was like super bummer because we had to fight again to keep Stephanie in the game. And
Mm.
I think she knew that we were fighting for her, or at least I believe that she believed me that I was fighting for her. And so it was one of those like you're on cloud nine, and then suddenly you're just, everything gets like pulled out from under you. We end up losing the challenge, and Stephanie goes into high gear, and she has to. Um, and it was probably one of the toughest votes, at least that I had in the game, because I had bonded so much with her through strategy time, that we had spent so much time together and so much time trying to figure out how the two of us do move forward in the game, that I didn't know what to do there. Like how, like she's throwing Andy under the bus. I'm not really ready for that. He's my shield going into the game, going into the merge. Dan is really the only option, but I can't really throw him out because she's trying to pull him in. So
Oh.
unfortunately, yeah, it was a kind of a weird like mix match of like what is the best move here if I'm gonna keep Stephanie, and Stephanie felt like taking out Andy was gonna be the better choice, because he was such a threat in the game, and so
Yeah, wait, so
um,
you saw Andy as a shield instead of a threat for you.
right.
How so?
I just knew that because Andy had found the idol in the flag, like right at the very beginning of the game. He
Mhm.
announced it to everybody. At that point, Andy was probably the physical player of our tribe. So looking at
Yeah.
him as somebody that was kind of leading the tribe, he was building fire. He was doing all the things that you know Andrew Savage does, and so he's the person that I'm looking at as like, okay, I can kind of put him up on this pedestal, and honestly at that point too, Andy and I had bonded a lot, and
Mhm.
so Andy and he's one of the people that I take away as a super close friend from this.
Oh.
And so he and I talked a lot of game. We got up early one morning, I think it was the this particular morning, and just kind of talked about life, about things. And so just you know getting to know him, and knowing that like if anyone's going to target somebody, it's probably going to be Andy over me. Both those things combined just made me feel like I needed to protect Andy and keep Andy in the game as long as I could. um and my problem too is I'm a loyalist, and I tend to stick with the people that I go into earlier. And so
Hmm.
that's where I was kind of at, where it was like I really want to work with Stephanie, but I've been with Andy since the beginning. And
And
so
Dan,
how do
yeah.
I
Yeah.
yeah, I can't turn on somebody that literally was winking at me as we were walking up to the first mat. So that was a tough decision. It was I mean, Andy was never really somebody I wanted to vote off at that point, and so for her to push his name was just it was really disheartening because I couldn't vote for him. So
Would you,
Stephanie had to go there for me.
if she had pushed Jess instead, what would you have done then? Yeah.
uh, I don't know. That's a great question because it never really ran through my head. Um, I don't know. I think that would have been a tough decision too. Um, and I don't want to say like past relationships, played a part in the game, but I think in that moment, like I felt like I could trust Jess more than Stephanie, but cutting Jess there might have been a smart move.
Mhm.
Hindsight.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I think my loyal nature just played my I played myself on that, where it was like I need to be with the people that I've given my word to from the beginning, and I can't go against that. And as slimy as that made me seem to Stephanie, it really wasn't slimy in my perspective, just
Yeah.
because I was sticking with the people I had already given my loyalty to.
No, it made the most sense. It would have been really entertaining if you had gone with Stephanie, but of course it made the most sense for your game.
Yeah, and sad in the sense that too, like she fought so hard, and she like I really am excited to watch like these
Yeah.
episodes kind of unfold, because from a perspective that's not mine, because I really like I saw the fire, I saw the fight. I really wanted her to be part of the merge game. So to merge at 9 was tough because we lost her kind of right before that. And so watching her fight at tribal, and like and Andy almost going home, and like it was good. It was right up until the last moment she played the game. So I'm so glad she got to be on jury. So that's
Me
super
too.
exciting.
Yeah. 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 That was good. Um, okay, so then the merge happens right afterwards.
Yes. This is where everything blows up into a big ball of fire for me. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so the merge happens. There's the merge feast, which I think I got like a burger. And like eating at that point is just so, on the show it's probably much more, relaxing and enjoyable. But in a game where I think that was what, the middle of the day before, right? So we only had like about 24 hours or like 30 hours of game left. So like
Yeah.
we're like getting toward that end game, right? And we were, and just knowing full well that like we're probably behind schedule, we're
Yeah.
probably going to be jumping into random, twists and turns. And so I think just like eating at that point is just like, okay, that's great. We get to eat, but like, let's play the game. Um, so I believe a member of production also warned us that there wouldn't be a lot of time. So we all just kind of scattered and just started to kind of chit chat. Unbeknownst to me, things were being found in the basket
Yes.
during Merge Feast. So that comes into play, which is super fun. Meanwhile, Matt has been giving away all of his trinkets to
Fucking
all
Matt
of his,
ruining
yeah, like
everything.
ruins the whole game. No, but like to learn. So I'll get to my understanding of all that later. But at that moment, like I'm just like, okay, I need to play this. I need to play something with Justin because Justin and I have been staring at each
Mhm.
other this entire game, 2.5 days, not being able to talk to each other, not able to communicate really in any particular way, but knowing each other and knowing full well that Will, me, and Jess and him are all still in the game. We are
Mhm.
4 people out of 9 that are still in this game. And like never once did it ever occur to me up until that point that the 4 of us would get that far. And so it was kind of a moment where like, okay, do I use this to my advantage and try to pull the one person in that I haven't really had a chance to talk to? So I go to Justin. We both lie through our teeth to each other, which is hilarious. I can't wait to watch that. Basically, I go to him and say that I was the other vote on the block, and that my team, somebody from my team, turned on me and
Oh
voted for me, which wasn't true.
my.
And Justin told me that his entire tribe voted against him, which was technically true. And that he had an idol that saved himself and yada yada yada, and that his entire tribe is against him. And so I'm just like, oh, this is great. Like the two of us are just like telling all sorts of stories, and this is awesome. So I just assume that Justin's either lying through his teeth, which he was, or he is going to be a huge asset to my game, moving forward into the merge. And so I kind of let that linger in my head for a minute, and then went to Matt and Mary Beth, where um we just didn't I I tried to like talk to them and talk like game with them, but they were not like they were kind of just giving me what I wanted to hear type stuff, which I
Mhm.
understood. So I was kind of like, all right, well they're kind of on the outs right now, so I'm just gonna kind of let that sit for a little bit and kind of see where that goes. So my assumption is like these two are just gonna like go where the majority goes. And so I'm not gonna really like play off them as much as I want to. Um, and then I go to Delaney and basically tell her that um, I don't I don't think we can trust Justin for anything that he says, and that we need to be kind of wary of Will. But if the two of them are close, let's make something happen. And so I'm under the impression that it's Delaney and me. We're coming back together. We're gonna rock this game. And then whatever relationships Delaney has from the other group and whatever relationships I have from my group, we can kind of merge together and just like pick them all off. That was my like hope
So
in that moment.
that's interesting because you've up to this point you've talked about the other four. When did you form this relationship with Delaney and this alliance?
That's a good point. So I kind of skipped over that. So
Yeah.
in the very beginning of the game, Will was kind of like taking control of the tribe,
Yeah.
kind of telling us where we should put the tarp, where we should build our camp and all that kind of stuff, right? And the fire making and all of that. Delaney and I are off on one side at some point, and we're just chit chatting. And basically, she says, "I've been doing this all my life. Like I feel like I have some ideas and some thoughts, but I don't want to like step on anybody's toes." So I basically just said to her, "Do it. Let's do it. Like I'm going to follow you and like see what happens." So she goes into the woods and I follow her in, and we basically start like scouring this area, which ends up becoming our camp.
Yeah.
And just kind of starting to build a space, and other people kind of see us doing this. But meanwhile, like Delaney and I are just talking and like getting to know each other. And she came to me during one of the challenges and basically was just like, I feel really good with you. Like I think it was right after maybe lost the Sam challenge when we voted out Sam. But she comes up to me at some point during, at the end of a challenge and basically says, I feel really good with you. I feel like we should work together. And I was already like, in my head, I was already working with her. So I think that relationship that I kind of built with her, because I think she respected the fact that I respected her.
Yeah.
And so the two of us just really bonded early in the game, apart from the whole Jess, Dan, Andy thing. And then Andy also brought up that he really liked Delaney. So I was kind of hoping that the three of us could somehow make something happen if that was doable. But then Delaney gets switched over and I kind of lost my connection with her. So that's where that kind of developed. It was super early in the game. But like I had that connection with her. I felt like I knew that if I were to make it to merge with her still there, that the two of us could somehow come together and make something happen. So then fast forward, here we are, and I basically was like, let's do this, let's pull together, let's make something happen. And then Justin ends up being the name, which was tough, but I went to Justin during that initial conversation, and basically I wanted to tell him as many lies as I could while trying to seem like I was telling him the truth. And so he asked me about Andy's idol, and I said, yep, Andy didn't play it because I was the one that was the target. So Andy still has his idol. So like that's all Justin needed to know. Like that's all he cared about. I didn't know that. But at that point, that's all he cared about was knowing where that idol was.
Mm-hmm.
And so I offered it up on a silver platter, even though the silver platter was empty. So during Tribal, Justin plays the, what is it? The knowledge is power, and thinks that Andy has the idol, and Andy doesn't have the idol. So I feel confident that that was kind of my play, but like I didn't know he had the KIP. I just told him the lie because it just made sense to tell him the lie. So that lie ended up preventing Justin from really being able to, he came into that Tribal more confident than he should have been, which I feel bad about. But at the end of the day, it's like, well, one of us is going to play the other at some point. So it just happened to be something that I didn't intend to happen, but glad it did.
Yeah. Do you know why his name? I assume it was because other people knew that he had won before. I know that was like going around, and a lot of people know. Did you ever tell anyone about Justin and how he had won other LRGs before?
I think so. I definitely told them that Justin and Will had played Survival Challenge together. I had kind of dropped that at some point in one of our conversations, at like group conversations. I think that was when Justin and Will were on a tribe together. So it was probably with like John, Stephanie, Andy, Dan, and Jess. And so I did kind of drop a couple of hints. Will was being looked at as very sketchy.
Yeah.
Stephanie gave me so much information, which was super helpful, at least, up until when I could use it. And so, yeah, like Stephanie told me that Will was like creeping around their camp at some point, and like, they were trying to like stay away from him, and like, yeah, I don't know whether it was true or not, but I literally watched him walk by. Like Stephanie and I were talking about her idol, which didn't exist at the time.
Yeah.
And so she kind of pointed him out to me. She's like, "Oh, there he is. He's creeping in the woods over there." And I looked over. There he is, just like hanging out in the woods, like looking at nothing. And I was just like, "What's he doing over there?" So Will, I think it was Will that had come to me and said that it was Justin, that Justin was going to be the one going home. I can't remember why.
I mean, that's who they had tried to get out. He and Delaney had tried to get out. Yeah. And they were blindsided when Matt gave Justin his idol, I think it was. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it was a whole big mess there. And so Will and Delaney and Jess had obviously concocted the plan to vote off Justin. I don't know that for sure from my perspective, but like those are the people that came to me with it. Justin was like, I kind of tried to hint to him at one point that like it's him, really? But it was because we went right from challenge to tribal, and so there was really no opportunity to kind of have more conversation about it. People were kind of like nodding their heads and like
Mhm.
doing the whole like, crazy stuff that you do with everyone standing there. But yeah, it was hard to communicate to Justin the the what was going to happen. The crazy part is that he and I kind of like called each other out at Tribal, kind of talking about like, well, where do you sit? Well, where do you sit? What are you doing? What are you doing? And so there was this kind of like, well, like, tell me what to do, Justin, and I'll see if I can help you. Unbeknownst to me, they were voting for Jess. So I don't know if I think he knew I
Oh.
wasn't going to do that.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, had he brought it up, had he made a comment to me beforehand of like who he might go after, then maybe I would have helped him, but I don't know. Um, yeah, it was just kind of a fun little moment we got to have at Tribal together before he went home.
Okay, so the next thing that happens then, there's another challenge and Will gets voted out. So what happened there?
uh, Delaney being the little sneaky snake that she is, she came to me almost immediately, almost in tears, saying that she thinks Will has to be the one to go next. And I was kind of like, oh, this is great. Like, I thought I had planted some seed and like got her to flip on the one person she should probably stick with. And so
Hmm.
I felt like this was my move that I had initiated somehow. And unbeknownst to me, Delaney is pulling strings in the background, which is awesome. And so yeah, so Delaney and I come up with a plan to vote for Will. And like, how are we going to like tell people? So I told her to go to Andy and I was going to go to Jess, which is hilarious that I'm the one that said that because it almost like was perfect for Delaney
Yeah.
because it keeps Delaney and Jess kind of separated with the decision, even though they had already made the decision together to vote for Will. So unbeknownst to me, I walk up to Jess and I'm like, so I think we're gonna vote for Will here. And she's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, yeah, great, awesome, that was easy. And then I immediately start walking over to Delaney and Andy's ho humming about the whole thing.
Mm.
And so I have to stand there while Delaney and Jess go off and laugh at at me. I'm standing there like helping Andy, like persuading him that Will needs to be the one to go. That we can't trust his gameplay. He's going to be really strategic. We just can't keep him in the game. Um, and so we choose to vote off Will. When did he had used? Oh, that was when he used Matt's gift.
Yeah.
Matt just like pulling. I almost want to call him like Mary Poppins. Like he was just like pulling things out of his bag, giving it to everybody. Um, so yeah, so Will becomes the plan. I think it was Delaney, or I want to say it was Delaney that then told Matt about the plan. So that's when Matt gives Will
Shot
his
in the dark.
coin there.
Yeah.
Yeah, his shot in the dark, and not even on my radar because Will had already used his shot in the
Yeah.
dark, and so we were kind of like, there's no way, unless Will has an idol, there's no way that Will can protect himself. So I think that's why Delaney kind of told
Mm.
everybody and kept them in the loop so that she can keep that relationship solid with those, that group of people, the old tribe. Um, and so I didn't think anything of it. And so when he pulls out the shot in the dark, my heart dropped because I was like, oh no, like who's he gonna vote for if his or I'm sorry, who's gonna be voted for if his thing works? Um Luckily it didn't work, but it really got me kind of a little bit heated. Not heated in the sense of like I was angry. I was just like, oh my God, like we can give away our shots in the dark.
Right.
What is this? Like, oh my God. So for me, it was kind of like, where did it come from? Did it come from somebody that maybe left the game and was allowed to like bequeath it? Like, I
Mm.
didn't know. Like, none of that
Right.
was explained. And
Right.
so I was like, all like, I'm such an overthinker. So like every little angle was like coming at me. And then Matt admits that he did it.
Oh.
And I'm like, what? No. Matt didn't admit that he did it.
Oh, he didn't?
I'm making that up. No, because Matt was sitting. No. I made that up because Matt was sitting there completely confused too. I didn't find out until after I got voted off.
Oh.
Um, yeah, no. Yeah, sorry, I take that all back. I'll retract. Yeah, no. Matt was sitting on. I remember Matt sitting on the ground and just being kind of like as confused as everybody else. And I was so I thought Delaney had given it to him. So I sort of I don't know if I accused her, but like I definitely like talked to her about it. Um, Jess thought it was weird because I threw a vote on Will during the Justin vote. And so
Oh, that
Jess
was
had confronted
you.
me. Yeah, that was me. So I had thrown a vote on Will to just get his mind completely like boggled, which worked. And so Jess was more upset with me than I thought she would have been. But I kind of lied about it because I didn't want Will to know that it was me. So I basically just blanket statement, like asked everybody like who voted for Will. And Jess looked at me and was like I think it was you, and I was like, no, it wasn't me.
Oh no.
So I think Jess was annoyed that I was lying to her, but I was lying to her because it was in front of everybody. So it was like
Yeah.
I'm not gonna tell everybody that I voted for Will. So yeah, so then right, Will goes home. I'm completely confused about the shot in the dark. I think that pretty much like absorbs my time for the first like 15 minutes of strategy session. Like who gave him the shot in the dark? Like where did that come from? Which was totally to my detriment because I'm the one that goes next.
Hmm.
So my vote out is tough because um, I forget what challenge I had lost or what the challenge had been.
It's the
Um,
gross food eating.
oh my god, I came so close. Yes. So I've never in the two live games that I've played, I've never won an individual challenge. I've been the hero in like team challenges, which is
Hmm.
cool, but I've never won my own challenge. And so I think that's one of the closest I've come. I came really close in a challenge in Buffalo, and then this is the closest I came in Maine. And I was in the final three with Delaney and Jess, who, unbeknownst to me, are literally like shoving food down
Yeah.
their throats specifically to beat me. So
Oh,
like,
really?
well, like
Oh,
I
they
mean, like
wanted you out.
I assume I was the next on their hit list.
Oh,
So
that's funny.
because I was, so to be in the final three with the two of them is kind of hilarious because Jess had been gagging the whole time, and so I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I'm gonna just stare at these crickets, and if Jess throws them up, then I'll just pop them down, and and then go up against Delaney with the blue, which I didn't know was blue, and I definitely would not have eaten it. I'm gonna be completely honest; like I don't think I could have handled it. But yeah, the live crickets were kind of a weird thing for me. So I kind of waited to see what the two of them were able to do, but they both like swallowed them within seconds, and
Hmm.
so I kind of got a little bit of a weird hint there, but I didn't really play off of it. But I thought it was odd that Jess had struggled through all of the rounds except for the one that like she needed to beat me on. Otherwise, I might win immunity. Um, so that was fun to kind of see in hindsight. But I lose the challenge. Still ate some really gross stuff, and it was delicious. And yeah, and so we go back to camp. It's dusk-ish.
Hmm.
And so we're kind of not really sure like if there's going to be a night tribal, if there's not going to be a night tribal, what's going to happen. And my big thing is like I just want to make it to the last day. Like if I
Hmm.
can make it to the last day, I'll feel really proud of myself. So even if I go home in this round, as long as it's tomorrow morning, I'll be fine. Um, and so we get back to camp. I immediately talk to Delaney. Delaney asks me what's the option here, and I'm gonna kind of bring in a little bit of experience from Buffalo. The round I went out in Buffalo was kind of a similar situation. I went to a specific individual in the game, and I basically just flat out said it has to be this person. Like it's an easy vote. Let's just get to the next stage of the game, and then we'll play it out from there. That's pretty much a very similar conversation I had with Delaney, where it was like we have to vote off one of the people from the
The
what
Miko
was it,
tribe.
the
Yeah.
Miko tribe.
Yeah.
So I was like, it has to be one of the two of them. It doesn't matter who it is. It just has to be one of the two of them. So she was like, great, like let's just figure out who it's going to be and then move on from there. I was like, great, awesome. Then I go to Jess, and Jess tells me that it's Andy. And I'm like, no. And so she basically looks at me, she goes, I know why it can't be Andy. And I was like, why? And she said, you know why, or something along those lines, like very vague. And I was like, did she hear me talking to Andy at some point, like making some sort of agreement or whatever? Because at that point I had no final two. The people that I wanted to take to the end with me, um, really didn't. I didn't have an idea yet. Like I didn't know who would be the best people. If I go to the end with Andy, I don't think I win. So I specifically say that to her, and I'm like, if I go to the final three or final two with Andy, Andy's gonna win. Like I don't see an opportunity potentially for me to beat Andy. So for me, like Andy is an option. I was like, but let's just get one more green person off. Let's just move on with like let's just do it, right? Let's just like be happy, get to the final day. Um, Andy gets wind of it, and I basically tell him that it was Jess that dropped his name, because at this point I need people to go against each other, because if we go to the final six and we're still four strong, that's great, but like Delaney's in there too in my brain. So like if Delaney's there, I need to like somehow feel out who I'm taking to the end at final six. So if I can get Jess and Andy going at each other, then that's great. Like that's fine with me, but it just has to be next round. It can't be this round. Um, so I tell Andy basically, so like nothing else happens. Like, so nobody else really talks to me. We have like a kumbaya moment around the fire. We're playing this game that Matt came up with, which is super fun and super cute. Really like Matt. I think Matt is like an amazing human being. And so he's just sitting there like plotting this game and like getting us to play this game around the fire. And meanwhile, I'm thinking like, there's still time. I feel like I don't have a solid idea of what's going to happen tonight. And so we're playing this game, and I kind of am trying to like look over at Jess, kind of like get her vibe, and she's not even like acknowledging me. Like she's not looking at me. She's not nothing. So I was like, okay. So in my brain, she said Andy. So I didn't think she was lying to me about that. She was. But I thought it was going to be Andy. So as we're waiting for tribal council, I basically tell Andy that he should use his shot in the dark. Like, you need to use your shot in the dark, use it tonight.
Wow.
Best of luck. Because I figured that would give me the lone vote. So I figured everyone would be voting for Andy. Andy plays his shot in the dark. On some whim, he wins. Because at this point, there's only 7 scrolls left. So I'm like, if it's going to get pulled, it's going to get pulled now. Like, now is the chance of a lifetime. Like, we got to do this. So I'm hoping he pulls it. And my rogue vote then becomes the person that goes home, which was going to be Matt, because the plan was to split the votes between the two Miko people. And so the girls were voting for Mary Beth, and the boys were voting for Matt. So all good, right? Everything's fine. Everyone's happy. Not really. And so we get to tribal. I tell Andy, like, just in case, use your shot in the dark. Andy goes up, votes, comes back. I vote. I come back. Jess votes. Jess comes back and is literally, I mean, like, I talked about my anxiety at the beginning of the game for the 2 years that this has been building up. I mean, she was like, there was just noises coming from her that I didn't understand. And I'm just like, what is wrong with her? Like, what is she doing? She's like breathing really heavy. She's staring straight ahead. She won't like move. She's like sitting there like a statue, like going, and I'm like, she voted for me. And I'm just like, I'm sitting there like, oh no, because I've already voted. So I can't even use my shot in the dark now. But I'm like, oh no, there's no way for me to fix this. There's no way for me to like get out of this. And so I'm like freaking out. So I'm like, oh no, this is going to go really badly. So Andy stands up, uses his shot in the dark, does not work, uses the idol, uses it on himself, which he should have. I think back to that moment, and I think so the vote comes up me, and I just like let out this like ridiculous sound. Like I'm just like, and so and I'm sure that'll go down in history. And so I know it's me at that point. Like I'm like, I'm done. And I just pat Jess on the back. Like I don't like I have no hard feelings. I think like her move made sense. She played me. She played the game. So I'm super proud of like how the moment happened for her, not for me, but for her. But yeah, it was a cool moment for her, and I think it's going to be a really great, especially with it being nighttime. I think it's going to be a great
Yes.
tribal council.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
but like I think back on that moment too, and I think had his shot in the dark succeeded, would he? And this is a question that I have never asked him, although I probably will at some point. Would he have played the idol on me? Because he knew that my name was also out there. I didn't know that, but he knew that. And
Hmm.
so in his brain, it was either him or me. So does he use the idol? If the shot in the dark works, does he use the idol to protect an ally and get both of us to the final stage of the game? And I think it would have been a really cool move.
Yeah,
Because I think that would have
his
upped
best move.
his yeah, I think it would have upped his resume too. Like it would have knocked my resume down and it would have built his up. And so I think it would have been a great move. I just don't know if that was what was going through his head. Because
Right,
why not hold on to the idol for one or two more rounds too? So,
right.
um,
Who
but
who did you vote for?
I voted for Matt.
Okay.
It was fun. I enjoyed this game. Looking forward to hopefully getting out there again. But yeah, I mean, it was probably one of the most anticipated moments of my life, just because of how long I had to wait to play. Knowing full well that I was going to be in the cast as long as it was a weekend I could get off.
Hmm.
And so to get that email, to commit to playing the game, to getting out there, to playing with the people. Like I mean, I've made relationships with these people that I mean they'll never end. I mean, I'm going out to Boston this weekend, so that's going to be exciting to see some of them
Cool.
again, in a more social atmosphere and
Hmm.
less trying to target each other with votes. So it'll be fun to just kind of hang out with them and get to know them as people, outside of the game. So yeah, I mean, it was a great experience. I would think that even though it was only 4 days, I think it mimicked the way the game is played in such a way that I mean, like I learned how to make fire. Like I learned how to build a shelter. I
Hmm.
didn't go into this knowing a lot of these things, even though I do a lot of camping. Like I know how to build a tent. Like I know how to put a tent up. I don't know how to build a shelter. I don't know how to, do all those other things. So it was cool to learn from people that did. It was cool to play with people that love the game and people who were new to the game too. And so that was really cool. So yeah, it was just I was so happy to have the experience, and I'm glad that whatever relationships I built are still going to be there.
Yeah, awesome. And if you were asked back for fans versus favorites, you would come back.
Oh yeah, I mean, like if I'm a favorite, then that's just that already I'm a winner. Yeah, no, I would play in a heartbeat again. I think just the time and energy that is put into the production of the game, I think is just like these challenges were real. Like
Yeah.
I felt like I was playing the challenges that I've watched people like completely like biff in the real show and do terribly in. I did well in, and it was the same challenge. It was the same thing.
Right.
So to feel like I can actually do it, and I'm sure all my other cast members also like felt very similar after competing in some of these challenges. So it was awesome. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, definitely would play again. and get revenge. And
You
maybe get sixth.
yeah, yeah. All right, Mike. Anything you want to plug?
Oh my gosh, can I plug things? Yeah, I mean, so I direct and edit season 3 and 4 of Buffalo Survivor,
Woohoo.
Survivor Buffalo. So definitely watch that. Episode 4 is coming out of season 3.
Oh,
So
nice.
that's super exciting. Yeah, I don't know when this is gonna get popped up, but I'm just finishing up episode 4. And then yeah, so that's really the only thing I'm involved in the Survivor community. Um, but yeah, hopefully you'll see my face and watch some Survivor Buffalo, and I'll be back.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, thank you, Taylor. This was fun.
All right, be sure and check out Mike's Ponderosa on our YouTube channel, and tune in next Wednesday, this Wednesday, for episode 11 of Surviving Maine Season 3.